Hello, bad movie lovers. I'm Nick Scheist,
the master of the stupid stuff,
and host of Bad Movies We Love, the podcast where we take a lovingly critical look at movies that may have fallen short of expectations, but left an indelible impact on our hearts. Every week, we dive into a different maligned movie. From mega flops to cult classics to B-movies to forgotten disasters, we laugh, we love, we ponder, and maybe, just maybe, we feel things. Along the way, we drop behind-the-scenes trivia, spin our bonus wheel of hypotheticals, compose heartfelt haikus, we face the reality of Critics' Corner, and prescribe the perfect gateway drug movies to expand your bad movie horizons. So if you've ever said, this movie sucks, but I love it anyway, you're in the right place.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Look for Bad Movies We Love wherever you get your podcasts and join us for the journey. Because sometimes, the best movies are the worst ones. Oh, hello there. You are now listening to Cunk'd, a transatlantic production of the Scheist Podcast Network. Welcome to Cunk'd, a very unofficial podcast, hosted by Nick Scheist and Skadooosch. So join us as we celebrate the life and work of Philomena Cunk'd. This is episode 2, Faith Off, part 1.
As it turns out, scheduling podcasts across the Atlantic Ocean is not the most convenient thing, but we're here again.
We are, but this is the thing. This is a podcast and ultimately an endeavor of love, collaboration, partnership. I was about to say diplomacy, but let's chill out. It's not quite that far. Yes, but this is the thing that we understand, Nick, isn't it? This is what we understand, is that sometimes to get on and to make something beautiful, there's some hard work involved, there's some compromise, but ultimately partnerships can they can be very good and they can be beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, give us some credit. We're bringing nations together across an ocean.
Oh, I give us all the credit that we deserve. I'm getting my covert political points in early.
Yeah, this is not a show that's necessarily going to dive into politics, but we'll see where it takes us. We did episode 1. I realized there's only 5 of these. I thought there was 6, but there's only 5. So we started with In the Beginnings. Now we've arrived at Faith Off, where we got teased into this episode with the showdown between the Bible and the Quran.
Oh, it's a good place to start, isn't it? And it's always a good place to start with Douglas Headley. What is his? Does he give an answer? He does, doesn't he? I think he just says the Quran, doesn't he?
Yeah, they use his quote in the intro as he just sort of corrects her on the pronunciation, and then later she asks him a different question, and I love the look on his face as he kind of like struggles to absorb her delivery. Like he gets very squinty-eyed, and you can tell he's very pensive in the moment, but it almost looks like it hurts him physically to be sitting there talking to her.
I understand because I guess someone of his expertise, someone of his intellect is used to talk. He's a chair at Oxford, I believe. So I'm pretty sure that he's used to taking questions from people who are perhaps not on the same IQ level or have the same level of expertise that he does. So he's probably very, very accustomed to taking questions and being confident and comfortable enough just to allow them to enter his brain, and he can process and then give a normal answer. But this is the thing. Philomena Cunk'd is not normal. Not normal at all, because, as you say, what is going into his brain via her mouth is... It takes some recalibration. It certainly takes some recalibration. But I also think that that's only 50% of it. I think the other 50% is him having to do his own internal recalibration as to how is he going to because again, he's not on reflex. He can't just answer the way he would answer a student or a normal person. This is a level of recalibration which needs to be done in order to. I mean, it's not even like a child, is it? It's. Oh, we had this discussion in the first episode really about how she's not a moron, and she's not dumb, but the questions she asks are often kind of confused as being that way. But yeah, I think he is one of my favorite experts, or I think he's one of a lot of people's favorite experts, because he takes that time to think about the answer and play it back to her. And as he does in many episodes, often kind of goes to some lengths to put her at ease that the question she's asked isn't entirely fucking mental.
Yeah, actually, in both of the cases that we've seen from him so far through the first 2 episodes, he gives her credit for actually posing very interesting philosophical questions. In the first one, it was sort of philosophical delineation of thought, like how you process thought and how you work through like an internal program.
Is it better to push it all out in one go, or to break it up into tiny little bits?
Can you get brain hemorrhoids from pushing too hard?
Oh, that's a question, isn't it?
That's a Philomena question. I'll have to watch more.
Could you have a mental prolapse?
I mean, I think in the abstract, I'm going to say yes, because it feels like some people have already had that experience. You've thought too hard.
I think most people.
Your brain has turned inside out. Maybe by the end of these 5 episodes, we will have had brain hemorrhoids ourselves.
Who knows?
Not hemorrhages, hemorrhoids.
Well, at least the medical associations around the world will have it recorded and can be used for medical research, so they can see the impact of talking about Philomena Cunk'd for 10 hours. They can see what it does to the brain. It's gonna,
and hopefully they have a laugh in the process. That's really the goal here.
Of course they will. Of course they will. I think just speaking across to the audience, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of myself and Nick for everyone who's engaged with that first episode, and it's gone down very, very well. We've had lots of lovely messages, so thank you all. Yeah, by the end of this, I'm sure we'll all be fine and we'll all have had a good laugh. And before we go any further, just a very quick shout out to all of the small to medium sized businesses out there who watch the clips that I share on Skadooosh Movie Ranking, the Cunk'd videos that I share. Thank you to all of you. It's very reassuring to know that a lot of people are at work and just watching Philomena Cunk'd videos on Instagram. That genuinely brings my heart a lot of joy. A lot of joy.
Yeah,
but also
the life guys, of being a social media manager.
But I mean, a part of me wants to say, guys, come on, at least log out of the official account before you follow me. But then, no, keep doing it, and I will. Yeah, I'm so glad there are hundreds of acupuncturists, plumbers, electricians, real estate companies that are hugely into Philomena Cunk'd, and that makes me happy. It gives me a bit more confidence for the future.
That's awesome. Well, you talked to Skadooosh privately about, doing a little back channel promotion here. We're not naming any of these businesses by name just yet.
Oh yeah, some advertising is available on our meager yet extremely powerful platform.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, this show already does better than all my other shows combined, which is crazy.
Hey, listen.
It's the power of Cunk'd.
There's a song in that. There might even be an album.
Well, you're the one with the guitar, so if you want to work on that in your spare time, by all means.
Well, I'll get in touch with Huey Lewis on Insta and see if he'll just waive the rights to. Wait, is that the power of? Yeah, it was Huey Lewis. That was Huey Lewis in the news, wasn't it?
I think so.
Thank God. Showing my age now.
Oh. Well, I think, a lot of people that are probably in the demographic for this are I'm going to say reasonably close in age to the two of us. And so heading into an episode like this where you know that religion is going to be in the crosshair, what are your expectations for this? I mean, I guess also I'm going to ask you sort of what is your theological background?
Oh, that's that's a really good place to start. So I was raised, I'm in my early 40s, up until the age of 16. I went to Catholic church every Sunday, went to St. Lawrence with my mum. So was confirmed as a Catholic. But to be absolutely honest, probably around about the age of 10 or 11, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I really strictly held what you would call strong religious beliefs. I would say I was much more along the side of philosophy, logic, reasoning. And I know that sounds like a dig. It's not a dig. I have a complicated relationship with religion in terms of where I see its benefits to the world. But me personally, one little quick anecdote about St. Lawrence, where I went to church. My mum, Northern Irish mother, was very keen to have me get up and do readings at church, which would happen, and they would always give me essentially hives and stomach cramps. Like from the age of about 9 or 10, I'd be absolutely bricking it all the way through the service because thinking, like half an hour in, I'm going to have to get up in front of everyone and speak. But that was, I mean, in terms of, it was quite good for me actually in the long run. But there's a side bit to this, which is that we sat in roughly the same seats normally every week, and behind us sat an old couple, lovely old couple who rarely talked, but always a lovely smile and a nod. And every now and again, when I would get up and do the reading, and I'd come back and sit back down, the older gentleman who sat behind me, he would lean forward and give me a tap on the shoulder. And if it had gone well, he just would say very good or good, and that was it. And it would bring a lovely little kind of jolt of happiness to my heart. And I think he knew when I had screwed it up, and I always knew when I'd screwed up because I would always walk back to my seat, and you could probably see it on my face that I wasn't happy with what I'd done. And he'd always say the same thing. He'd say tap on the shoulder, and he'd say, "Just slow down, just slow down. You'll be better next time." And that man was Alec Guinness. That was Sir Alec Guinness, otherwise known as Obi-Wan Kenobi from the original Star Wars trilogy, and many other things. But yes, that was a little claim to fame that I had kind of growing up. But yeah, going into this episode, now we said at the end of the last one that this is a contentious one because it always is when religion is involved. I guess this is so. Why is it so contentious? I think I've boiled it down to one question, which is, can you be religious and have a sense of humor? What do you think?
One would hope.
You would, considering some of the stories. Come on, let's be honest here. And listen, there are millions and millions, billions of people out there, and again, just to flip back to the feedback that we receive on the Insta videos for Cunk'd, the majority do have a sense of humor. They really do.
But the ones that don't sure don't.
Oh, the ones that don't. And let's just get to it quickly because I think it comes up quickly in this episode. And it's going to come up over and over again. It's going to come up in the comments section. It's always the same thing, which is, and I've got to be honest, I've tried to be equal, and I've put up probably just as many videos with jokes or parts about Islam on the channel as I have clips of anything regarding Christianity. So I've tried to be fair in terms of content share. The comments that I get back on the Islam video are all the same, and they're all hilarious. I haven't had one back which has been threatening jihad or putting some anthrax in the. There's been none of that. There's been absolutely none of that. But the most prevalent comment on every single video of Philomena Cunk'd regarding Christianity has the same comments every single time. And it's always, she wouldn't do this about Islam. She wouldn't say that about Islam. Do Islam next. It's a shame she can't do Islam, which I think is at the crux of what hopefully we're going to talk about tonight, is a sense of humor and, dare I say it, very thin skin on the part of some Christians.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody really likes to be the butt of the joke, but if you can understand that it's not necessarily coming from like a mean-spirited place as much as it's coming from a place of just being observational about history, then you don't take it as personally. But I think a lot of people are probably, at least a lot of the people that are complaining, are the ones who feel like they are being described by her, right? You know, she says something along the lines of tolerance and forgiveness was Jesus's message. And it's a message so powerful that his followers would eventually start killing people who didn't want to hear it. And look, she's not wrong. But you don't want to envision. Yeah, you don't want to envision yourself as the person who's like, I'm so intolerant, I'm going to kill somebody who doesn't agree with me. And for the most part, the people that are replying to you are probably not those people. But I feel like there might be a seed in there somewhere where they're taking that a little too personally.
I mean, it is. I mean, I hate to quote Ricky Gervais. I really do. However, he does make a very. I mean, he has to make this point quite often, but I think it is succinct and it is applicable. The subject of a joke is not necessarily the target of a joke. And just to go, I mean, let's go straight. I think the early one is about Jesus and how the Romans were quite lucky because they needed an almost Christ-like figure to arrive, and luckily one did. And he was born into a humble stable, which ironically is not a stable environment for a baby, unless he was a baby donkey, which, if records are to be true, he wasn't. Yes. Listen, the target of these jokes are quite clearly the fantastical nature of the stories, which are the fundamental basis for people's beliefs, because it depends whether or not you believe literally that everything in the Bible happened, which if you do, that's going to take some mental gymnastics because it does contradict itself quite a lot. Or if you think more in the manner of, say, the Hot Priest, Andrew Scott's Hot Priest from Fleabag, which is, it's not to be taken literally. It's all just poetry and a guide for how to live a good life. I'm much more in that second camp, but I think those who are in the first camp, they are the ones who get very, and also, look, come on, let's just call it what it is, Nick. It's babyish behavior, isn't it? It's like being picked on and then saying, like, looking at the other kid in the playground and going, why don't you pick on him? Like, come on, grow up. And also, there's one gentleman, I think the username is Crowpilot, who comments quite often on the watches a lot of the Cunk'd videos that I put out. He made an excellent point referencing Nietzsche, who said that Jesus Christ could quite clearly be described as the only real Christian. And he referenced, what did he call it? The doctrine fallacy. Essentially, saying you believe in the teachings and sayings of Christ, but not actually acting in that way at all. Not practicing tolerance, not practicing forgiveness. I think that's at the heart of a lot of this.
Yeah, I think we've arrived at a point where there's a lot of religious hypocrisy. We've got a lot of like televangelists who take advantage of people who have mega churches and multi-millions, tens of millions of tax-free dollars pouring in from people that support them. And they have no interest in being charitable or being good Christians, but they see the power.
Well, they don't pay taxes. They don't.
Of course not. the benefit of being a preacher, I guess. But like you said, that like a character like Andrew Scott's hot priest, I think it boils down to having somebody in that position who can sort of read between the lines, right? I think with any book that you read, I mean, you can be a literalist about the book, but that's almost insane when you think about it in the context of a book that
Yes.
isn't a religious text. But she makes a joke
No.
in this that like after Jesus died, he came back as a book, didn't he? And well, yeah, in a vacuum, it's like ridiculous, but she's kind of not wrong either, which I think is what makes it. I think what make her comedy so special is that she can sort of deliver something in a dumb way that actually makes a lot of sense, and
Yes.
it always is.
Absolutely.
It always sort of puts the expert on the defensive, but she gets into this conversation about Jesus. You only have two versions of him. You have him as the adult and as the baby, and she's like, on the one hand, yeah, crucifying the baby, of course, is like taking that joke all the way to the extreme. Like you really could have played the sympathy card if you would have painted him crucified as a baby. But she asked this question of the paintings of Jesus, right? He's like, well, did he pose for these? And like, it's a very legitimate question in terms of the depiction of sort of like the Anglo white Jesus that we see. And you have this expert conceding that, well, he is everywhere, sort of figuratively. And she quickly retorts with, oh, so they're drawing him from memory like a police sketch artist. So I think
a police sketch artist. That's so, because she's so good on the swivel, isn't she? She can. That was one of my favorites because that's clearly not scripted. Like going straight into like a police sketch artist.
I think I love that. I love that question though, because as much as it's superficially funny and very simplistic, it is really digging into this much deeper notion of the tradition of an idea getting passed down through generations and being repeated and repeated and repeated, and us knowing, logically, that Jesus is probably not this shiny white boy, but the imagery that we got of him is portrayed a certain way over the course of, centuries. So she's able to dig at a very real idea in a very silly way, and it's one of her biggest strengths.
I think if we look at one of the pieces of art that keeps kind of coming back into my head, and I just wondered if you have a relationship with Kevin Smith's Dogma, the movie Dogma.
I've seen it a few times, but I wouldn't say I have a relationship with it.
So I just to probably skip back to the beginning when you asked me about my theological beliefs, I think most of them can be summed up in the movie Dogma. The Chris Rock really has he steals a huge chunk of that movie when they're on the highway, and he talks about Jesus being a cool guy. That's what he was. But the thing that later kind of came out of people's belief in him, as you said, and as it is referenced when she says about his followers then going on to mercilessly kill anyone who didn't agree with him, is that Jesus was about ideas, and the problem with a belief structure is that you put that on top of the ideas, and then it becomes about control, and it's not necessarily about the original teachings. And that's what I think there's a healthy debate, and there's always been healthy debate about whether or not the church itself is a force for good in the world, because and does it reflect necessarily the teachings of Jesus? Because let's be honest, as much as I loved the movie Conclave, I really loved it. Oh, I loved it. But I did find that little socialist inside my head looking at that movie going, how much does all this cost? Look at the outfits, look at the gold, look at the cars, the security. Like, how much does all this cost? And why did you have all the money? Like, it raises some heavy questions. But yeah, I go back to Dogma in terms of, let's not forget what this is. We're talking about Philomena Cunk'd. The aim of this show is a comedy show. And as you said, like the questions that she asked, this is why I love, because I swear to God, a lot of the time I saw in that writer's room, they will take the topic and they will sketch out the jokes that they want to do. And then they will find what is the furthest they can take it, as you said. With, are there any pictures of Jesus as a baby being crucified? And they have to make it. They have to make a decision. Okay, what show do we want to do here? And why so often I think they go to those nth degree, those right down at the bottom of the line, the furthest they can push the joke, is because at the end of the day, this is a comedy show. This is not a documentary about which religion's better. This is a comedy show. So I think bringing all of your emotional baggage and religion to this show, it's never going to help you. You're not going to get the jokes, because if you're thin-skinned and you don't like people asking questions or pointing out inaccuracies in perhaps dogma or faith in general, then I mean, is your faith really that strong? Really, if Philomena Cunk'd can piss you off this much?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And like you said, this is not something that is designed to be shown to people like in seminary school. You know, this isn't for the church. It'd be great. Reaction videos from that would be hilarious, because you could see, like, if you just watch the crowd, you'd be like, oh, he smiled, like he's going to be the one. But I myself, I was in pro.
I mean, the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama has an amazing sense of humor. Amazing sense of humor. And I think loads of Christians do. And listen, this is the thing also about going back to the Christianity versus Islam, is that a lot of the things that people like Nigel or Steve or Dan will point out is, you can't joke about Islam. Can't joke about Islam. You fucking can. You really can. I know plenty of Islamic comedians, and they do it all the time, and nothing happens. Everything's okay. But it's that, I don't know, we talked about before about people twisting things for their own agenda. That's what fucks me off about people taking Cunk'd content and using it for hate in that respect, because first of all, it's missing the point. And also, you're just blindly ignoring that she takes the piss out of everyone. The writing is almost quite what's the word? Well, in equal opportunities in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's disingenuous to take a 15-30-second clip from the show and portray it as if it is a real documentary series. And I think that's what happens a lot, is, like you said, some of the things that the people that are most reactionary see the clips and react to it like, how can this person be real? How can someone be so stupid? This person's wasting time, this, that. It's like, out of context, I think it does make for some great, like, clippable content at the 30 seconds to a minute type of range. But as a whole, you can't watch an entire episode and I think miss the context of that it's a comedy. And I think the curtain gets pulled back a little
unless you want to, unless you are willfully doing so, and that again is something that really gets under my skin. Is people, I said it in the first episode, I'll say it again. I do struggle that people take her literally, and I'm much more inclined probably to believe, just my personal belief, that it is more people choosing to take her literally rather than actually believing that this, because just apply a small amount of logic. Come on. It looks like
that's
a BBC
asking a
show.
lot these days.
It's a BBC show. It's a fair point, Nick. Good point. But just to, so after she's talked about, she's introduced Jesus in this episode, which is absolutely wonderful. I think she has my favorite jokes of all time in this one, which Jesus was named after the same two words you say when you hit yourself with a hammer. Oh no, that was it. Sorry, it starts with carpentry, doesn't it?
Yes.
He was born a carpenter, but then converted to Judaism. Oh, I love it. But then, literally, I've written down the timestamp here, mate. 2 minutes 21 into the episode, and she turns to the camera, and as you say, it's after she's talking about Jesus being portrayed in art. She turns to the camera and pointedly says, "Don't worry, I'm doing Islam later." Now, what does that say, do you think?
I mean, it's in a show where she's already talking to the camera with the understanding that there is an audience she's speaking directly to. This still goes beyond that membrane, beyond that fourth wall, and sort of like at 2 minutes in, you're like, calm down. This is a comedy show. We're going to be equal opportunity insulting both sides and just chill out.
It's also
Whatever.
preempting. There's a degree of preempting, though, isn't there? Because they clearly would have known that as soon as you start bashing Jesus, a lot of people are going to go, "Oh, what about Islam?" So to get it in there at 2:21, and it goes back to what you were saying about people looking at the clips in isolation. Those people who are getting upset, they're probably not watching the full episode. And I don't have the time or patience to reply to every comment saying, at 2:21 in this episode, she turns to the camera and says, "Don't worry, I'm doing Islam later." I think there's some exploring that needs to be done, but I don't know if I have the emotional capacity to do it. But like the fact that they knew ahead of time in the writing to make sure right at the beginning they say to those people, "Don't worry, we'll be taking the piss out of another religion in a minute." Pretty much, I mean, that's a joke in itself. And I think a lot of people take that as, oh, that's almost like a legal disclaimer. No. That's Charlie Brooker telling you, it's him speaking directly to those thin-skinned Christians. We shouldn't have to do this. We shouldn't have to say 2:21 in here. Like, don't worry, we'll take the piss out of another religion in a minute. Because, again, going back to fundamentals of Christianity, turn the other cheek, forgiveness, tolerance.
Yeah, Jesus was like, be kind to the poor, don't trust the rich. Fairly, I mean, like, live a good life, right? Don't be a shithead.
Great way to live. Great.
Yeah. Don't be
great
a dick.
ethos to live by. Don't be a dick. It's the number one rule of English culture. It really is. It's like, stay out of other people's business and don't be a prick. That's it. Otherwise, get on.
I mean, I think for me, like, I went to parochial school for 8 years. I was in Lutheran school for 4 years. And then for high school, I went to a Catholic high school. So I was doing mass like every week for 8 years. And part of me was like, yeah, maybe I'm Christian, maybe I'm not. Like, yeah, my family never forced it on me or anything. But also, we talked about sort of the interpreters of the religious text being important stopgap measures along the way. And one of my religion teachers, they showed me The Matrix. Like, the first time I saw The Matrix was in my Catholic high school. So, like, there's awareness there, and we had world religion classes. Like, a couple of our teachers were gay, so like for a Catholic high school, like they were pretty flexible in terms of the kind of stuff that like they allowed, and I appreciated that. Yeah, so it let me leave high school not feeling like I'm under the thumb of God, right? And so if I don't look at God as like this vengeful being where if I don't do this thing, he's just sitting up there like, oh yeah, I can't wait to torture this guy for all eternity. Like, I never had that kind of like relationship. So I think when this kind of material gets presented to people who are coming from like a very fear mongering type of religious culture, it does set some things off, and it rings some alarm bells where it's like, oh, it's not okay to joke
Interesting.
about this because we've been governed by like the fear of God is what sort of guides us into a good life rather than like just be a good person to be a good person, like not because you fear eternal damnation.
Uh-huh.
Like so I think that's kind of where the rub
Mm-hmm.
comes in with like
100%.
people like you said who have the thin skin when it comes to taking the piss out of these kinds of
Well,
religious concepts.
there's a word in that quote when she, again, going back to it, they all agree that Jesus preached tolerance and forgiveness, a message so important, his most ardent.
Mm,
That's the line. That's the
yeah.
word. Ardent followers. Terry Pratchett has one of my favorite books of his is Thud, and that covers religious extremism as well. And one of the characters is literally called Ardent.
Ooh.
Um,
Okay.
it's Terry Pratchett didn't fuck around when it came to naming characters. He just went straight for the jugular. But yeah, I think it. I love that your teacher showed you the Matrix. Can I ask a question actually, just on that?
Yeah.
Did they show it to you? What was the conversation around that? Because there are lots of people who've made the leap to say that the Matrix essentially is a parable or a analogy for Jesus Christ and him coming and waking people up and all of that sort of thing. I personally, I've never, like, I can see the parallels. I think you can draw parallels with any piece of art. I've never really seen it that way. But just in terms of your experience, what was the conversation when they showed you the Matrix? Was it based around, was it drawing the parallels between the content and Christianity, or was it just more of a wider philosophical kind of
I
debate?
think it was. I think that class in particular was studying like Catholicism and the Bible. Maybe even the Catechism was that year. But I
Mm.
believe the context of showing us the film was that it is sort of a religious allegory, and that maybe the
Ah.
kind of religious scope that we put on things as Catholics is not the only scope, because the year after that we had world religion, where we're learning every religion
Mhm.
in the world. So like for a Catholic school to be like, hey, we're going to have another class the year after this where like we show you all the other sides of things. It's an
Mm.
interesting way to do it. And the Matrix had just come out the year before that too. So just, interesting timing and some liberal teachers.
Fabulous. I think that's brilliant. I think, again, my personal belief or personal take on the Matrix, and I think considering what we know, I mean, the Wachowskis, I think have been quite clear in terms of. I don't know if they've ever said anything about it being particularly like a religious allegory, but we do know. I mean, quite convincingly that it is an allegory for um, the trans experience. We know that for certain. Um, and that's an interesting point. Uh, Again, I don't want to get sidetracked too much, but I do find it interesting that people do get caught. I mean, Mark Kermode often says the same thing. Like you get you can take you get from a movie or a TV show what you bring to it. So, um, and Jack Thorne of Adolescence fame, the writer of Adolescence with Stephen Graham, has always said that TV and art in general is an empathy box. It allows us a window into other people's lives and things. And our reactions are ultimately our own. I had scribbled down here as well, with next to the Matrix and Jesus. You said you did world religion. I saw an interview with Dev Patel after he did Monkey Man. I'm not sure if
Mm,
you saw that
I did.
Monkey Man.
Mm.
One of the Hindu gods is Raman, and the monkey god who can fly. And actually, he made a really interesting point that there are huge correlations between Raman. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Sorry, the monkey god, Hindu monkey god, and Superman. The tearing of the chest, the flying in all of the iconography. There are some very, very strong and deep parallels between Superman and that religious character. So I see these types of conversations, I think, are healthy. And that's what I think is actually being done in these Philomena Cunk'd episodes is looking at religion in a funny way, clearly, in quite an I was going to say quite a eviscerating manner, because it does. They don't pull their punches in the jokes. I mean, what was it? The Romans feared Jesus Christ, so they had him crucified, and not just a little, but all the way.
All the way to death, yes.
All the like they gave him a good proper crucifying. But also they refer to him, like, just the little ways they describe him. Jesus was a radicalized woodsmith.
Yeah, she's not wrong. She leads out of that by asking that expert, like, would you call Jesus the first victim of cancel culture, celebrity cancel culture, right? And I had to think
God
about that.
Bless this expert.
Because I was like, I think she's kind of right, even though the expert, what she says is that it would require people thinking that Jesus believed in something for him to be a victim of cancel culture. And I'm like, is she saying that Jesus didn't believe in anything, so therefore he couldn't be a victim of cancel culture?
It's a very I think, if I'm being absolutely honest, I think they had a decision to make in the editing, because that section with that expert is two parts. The first part, where she asks that question and she responds, and I'll come back to it. But then the second part of this interaction is so legendary that I think it doesn't actually make sense unless you include the first part. Which is why I think when she asked that question about Jesus being the first real victim of cancel culture, I'm not sure if the expert actually believes what she's saying. I think she's doing that thing where she's talking whilst thinking about.
I need to buy myself some time here.
I need to buy myself a little bit of space here, because hang on, well, Jesus, that would require Jesus to. That's not what she's asking. She's just saying, was Jesus cancelled because they crucified him?
That's why I was sort of like, is she genuinely saying that, like, she doesn't think that Jesus had a belief system? Because later, there's sort of, she's going back and forth with a different expert, and the expert says, well, Jesus did say that he was the Son of God, and Philomena is like, well, that was stupid. He shouldn't have done that. It got him killed.
Kind of, I mean, yeah, it does, and it does speak to kind of the idea of. I mean, let's be honest here as well about all religion. I mean, weirdly enough, what probably a lot of these people have in common is probably the things with kind of modern day DC and Marvel fans is let's just what's the word retro retrofit what went before retcon. Yeah, retconning. Essentially, religion is the biggest retcon of all time. What Jesus actually meant was we don't see much more of that expert, the blonde American lady, but she does have. I think it is one of my favorite interactions because, as you say, the first question is, could you say? And it's in the wording. Could you say that Jesus is the first victim of celebrity culture? She gives the answer, and she comes back. She says, "No, sorry, no. I actually meant, could you look straight down the camera, please, and say that Jesus was the first?" You could, and then it's the way that she just kind of gives up and just does it, and then she also has the tone of voice and the little head tilt at the end. I guess you could say Jesus is the first victim of celebrity cancel culture. I just, yeah, we're big fans of what Philomena Kunk is able to get out of experts, because that's really kind of the exercise here. Is, let's be honest, the questions are there to provoke. They always are.
For sure.
They always are.
Well, I like that she uses
Yeah.
a similar tactic again with Nigel, Mr. Spivey. She asks him,
that man.
yeah,
God bless
indeed,
him.
He's patient. She asks him if Christians advanced in the Colosseum, if they were to win their fight against the lion and eat the lion instead. And he says something like, well, there's very little evidence to suggest that large numbers of Christians were actually sacrificed in the Colosseum. And she just like rebuts him. And the look on his face, he goes, really? But that's wrong.
Really? But that's wrong. But that's wrong. And we talked about in the first episode about the magnificent Professor Irving Finkel.
Yes.
Who, I think we pointed quite rightly out that he's one of the very few people who actually rebuke her, even though it's not particularly a harsh rebuke. And Spivey's the other one. That was the other one. Really? But that's wrong.
The same guy who was he was ambushed with the question about anal bleaching of the Greeks, and
he
looks around as if he's on a hidden camera show.
And then he gets a further kind of shellacking from her in terms of when he comes. And what does he say? Oh, all right. So we're discussing the mental health of lions, are we?
Mm-hmm.
The combination of tension and farce, I think that's the right word. Absurd, or at least absurdity, and a degree of farce, and a bit of willful ignorance. It really does make for some wonderful content in this episode. There's something before we go on to the next. We may have missed out on. I'm not sure if you noticed that we get a small glimpse into Philomena Kunk's family tree in this episode. There is all of a sudden a new addition to the world of Cunk'd, which is her uncle Steve.
Yeah, right.
I can't remember the exact line. It's kind of might be a throwaway line. It's something about her uncle Steve and his opinions, and it shows a very brief clip of Steve S. Cunk'd, uncle. I think that's his job title. It shows his social media page. So underneath his main name, which is Steve.S.Cunk'd, he's a grandfather, a gardener, a motorist, a rambler, and a real ale enthusiast. He has 6,283 people that he's following. 30 followers, Nick. 30 followers.
But that is more than Jesus, which is what she's pointing out.
Yes, that was it. 30 followers.
Didn't she say my uncle's like uninspiring Instagram page or something?
Oh, that's it. Pics of Costa, like little pics of Costa coffee at a service station, dry wall cracking, and then there's this really bleak beach kind of scene, like an image of a really bleak beach, and just ends with a urinal. It's
all good Instagram accounts should.
I don't think it's a character we're going to be coming back to, but I love it that they're very selective with how they expand the Cunk'd kind of backstory, I guess. Really, there's her aunt Carol and her mate Paul, obviously, are the two primary other bits of context that we have as an audience. But now we also do, in this, we have Uncle Steve and who else am I missing here? Oh, of course, her ex-boyfriend Sean, which you have. I'm not sure if you've met yet. But,
I don't think so. I'm only. This is only the second one. I watched this one twice, but I don't remember his name yet.
I think. Oh, okay. We have also missed out the Belgian techno anthem "Pump Up the Jam."
Well, I'm going to ask you about that because wasn't it in the first episode too?
It wasn't in the first episode because I
What
don't
was
think
the
we'd
other
have
one in
been
the
able
first
to go
episode?
through. I don't. The other one, the first episode was for some reason they keep harking back to a really obscure, I think BBC, either BBC or ITV 80s kind of sitcom, which I now can't remember the name of. God bless me. Jesus. Like, they do this quite often. And this is a technique that I think I know where it comes from, because in terms of contemporaries, Charlie Brooker is very much of the same school as the writers such as Jesse Armstrong, who they were kind of coming through at the same time. Jesse Armstrong, if anyone doesn't know, is the kind of the creator, the writer of Succession, and Peep Show, and loads of other things. But they have a certain writing technique that I'm aware of in the writer's room, whereby before they go and write anything to do with the show that they're working on, quite often they will just go around the room and they'll talk about, just tell me what happened last night. Just tell me what happened to you last night. And someone goes up on the board and they write down all these little things. And what it ends up with is this big hodgepodge, this big mess of words and random things that come into. And I have a feeling that that is exactly the kind of the technique that they apply here with the Belgian techno anthem "Pump Up the Jam."
I can see that,
because there's no logical reason why in a even mockumentary about how Islam has shaped the modern world, in which the Belgian techno anthem "Pump Up the Jam" should be featured. I don't think, although it does give us a few actual subtitles whilst it's playing, which start off, I don't like, almost in the realms of possibility, that the Belgian techno anthem "Pump Up the Jam" has a BPM of 125, which is the resting heart rate of the same BPM as a resting cat. And then they just throw that out completely and tell us that it's the national anthem of Canada.
I do love that she chases that with not everyone appreciated the swinging sound of Christianity.
Yeah.
And then we meet Spivey again. They talk about the lions and the Colosseum, and we see the pain in his face. And then we get to Headley, and it seems like it. I can't track it because I haven't seen all the episodes, but it seems like a lot of their interaction is going to be similar to this, where she communicates something in a very dumb way that is a smart idea. And in this case, she's telling the story of her mate Paul, right, who got into a car accident and almost died. And
well, I mean, did he almost die? I mean, this is the question.
That's
really,
a good. I don't know if he actually
did Jesus save him? I think. I mean, there's a quite legitimate argument that she makes there that Jesus did save him, but then may have really just, I don't know, whatever mood that Jesus was in on that day caused him to fracture his skull and break both his legs as well.
Yes. So, I mean, the root of that question and that story she's telling is like the idea that when something good happens, it's because of God, and then when something bad happens, it's God's plan. And so it's like giving credit for the good, absolving guilt of the bad. And you can see that Headley approaches it in that way. He's like, you're actually raising a very interesting question here about like the role that plays.
But the point where we all end up on the floor in floods of tears and laughter is because he then brings it back specifically to saying, your friend Paul. your friend Paul. Yeah, yes, you're absolutely right. It's that juggling of sincerity with complete utter stupidity. Just, I love it. I don't think we're ever going to meet. Do you think we're ever going to meet Paul?
I hope so.
I can tell you I've seen every. I don't know. See, this is a question. I don't know if I want to meet Paul. I think any visual representation of Paul would probably be disappointing unless
Yeah.
it was like a golem-like figure living in a basement flat in, I don't know. I don't know. I hope we don't meet him. Actually, I hope we don't meet him. I think he's better as a myth and a legend.
Yeah, never meet your heroes. The idea is always going to be better. But
I think if your hero is Philomena Cunk'd's mate Paul, there's some serious questions. There's some serious questions need asking.
Fair enough. But if she introduced him in the way that she sort of does passively, like how she talks about the coffee shop in the town square that gets raided through, and she's like laying out the scene. She's like, past the coffee shop with the rude staff. So like, did that just happen earlier before they filmed? And she's like, I'm including this.
Clearly did.
Yeah.
It clearly did with the rude staff. But it's also a quintessentially British way of, again, I think the joke here is obviously that Rome obviously didn't look like this. The sacking of Rome did not happen right here.
Yes.
But the way she's delivering it is, again, I think it's a different experience perhaps for Americans, because the way she's delivering this almost VT is so part of our British language that it's almost kind of designed for us to automatically accept that what she's saying is true, because it's being delivered in the exact same manner as every other kind of factual documentary that you would watch on the BBC. So it's why those jokes that come with the rude staff, and the vandals and all of this. I think almost, what was the other thing?
The pizza shop that's not open on the weekends and not suitable.
It's not going to be open there on the weekends. She's literally just, and we had this conversation, I think, after the first episode, is if you were really to try and explain what the brand of Philomena Cunk'd is, it's, if you can imagine giving, it's like it's a 12-year-old girl, 12 or 13-year-old teenage girl at school who has no interest in learning whatsoever and is going to get by on the bare minimum that they can do when it comes to homework or a project or and it's like that they've given the whole BBC budget for a documentary to Philomena Cunk'd, who then kind of fulfills that brief, because it's like someone who's just barely skimmed a textbook and gone, right, that's that, and that's that, and that's that, and that's that. And then and again, it's perfectly summed up, as you say, in that piece where she just ends up reading out reviews from TripAdvisor, like opening times. It's like, I couldn't be bothered, so I just looked it up on Google and I've put the opening times in. That'll get me a mark. Fuck it, that's fine.
She was required to have citation in her book report, and so she's like, well, TripAdvisor counts. It's great. Because it doesn't add any context to what she's actually telling us about. But when you talk about the brand of
it's got nothing to do with religion. It's got
not at all.
Nothing to do with Jesus.
It barely has anything to do with the episode that we're currently in the middle of, the story that she's currently telling. But, we talked about...
And don't forget, Nick, don't forget, she forgets during this episode what episode they're on and ends up asking one of the experts, is that coming up in episode... Where are we?
Well, I think in the first episode, we talked about sort of the name of Cunk'd and Philomena. And so I tried to learn about the the etymology of the name Philomena. And so in like Greek mythology, and we talk about the Greeks a lot, it was associated with the princess who faced great trials but remained steadfast in her loyalty and friendship. And I think the literal meaning is like lover of strength and courage. So it's an interesting name.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very interesting and like powerful.
I didn't know any of that.
Character name.
As I stated in the first episode, my mother's name mother's first name is Philomena. Jesus Christ. Okay, sorry. I'm having just yeah.
I did some research, like a little bit. I did the minimum amount of research. I looked on TripAdvisor for that.
I see. My mother has people with Irish family will be familiar with this. How Irish people quite often have 5 or 6 names, and actually the name that they are known by is quite often not the first name in that order. And that's the same with my mother. Philomena is, I think, the 3rd or 4th in the series of names. So it's always been kind of, I never really understood how that worked, or why did she choose that of the 5 names Philomena was going to be that. But it makes a fuckload more sense now, when steadfast, lover of strength. Like, my mum is amazing. I love my mother. She is a cannonball of a human being. And just certain words here are resonating very strongly.
Get your mom on the next episode.
Mate, there are wild horses. Never. Not. I mean, I want her to be proud of me, but at the same time, I don't know if the woman who made me go to church every Sunday for 16 years is going to enjoy. She's not going to listen to this. If she does, Mum, I love you, and thanks for everything.
Make her proud. She's your baby boy right here.
I do make her proud.
Thank you for listening to Cunk'd. Join us next time for part 2 of episode 2. Cunk'd was created and hosted by Nick Scheist and Skadooosh, and is recorded, edited, and produced at Scheist Podcast Studios. Our theme music is written and performed by Mike Willoughby.